Syria current state is considered to be in crisis. Why? Okay, there is no order. Government lacks police enforcement there. A lot of corruption going on. All right, but here are the three main reasons why Syria's current state is considered to be in crisis. All right, um, due to the massive civilian killings. So in a growing, developing, well-structured government. Driven society, right? You need civilians, all right, and you can be considered a developing state if you have massive civilian killings, all right. So Syria current state is considered to be in crisis due to massive civilian killings, millions fleeing to neighboring countries, and superpowers are attempting to establish order but only fuels hostility, right? So I gave you a good reason right here, the first one, right? Now let's go ahead and go to the second reason why it's millions fleeing to neighboring countries. Millions fleeing to neighboring countries, right? So, if your government fails to have order to its civilians, right? What generally happens is that innocent citizens, law-abiding citizens, they are going to begin to start fleeing, right? They're going to start leaving. They're like, oh no, there's too much chaos here. It's not safe here, and they lose that trust within their government and within their community too, because they don't know who to trust. All right. Imagine if your neighbor was a part of the, we'll say the rebel movement, right? And you're a law-abiding citizen and you don't join the rebel movement with your neighbors, right? You'll kind of be seen as, we'll say, like a threat to the rebel nation, right? So they begin to flee to neighboring countries, right? Now, maybe one or two can successfully go to a neighboring country and get in there without any problem. But when you have thousands, groups of tens of thousands fleeing, to neighboring countries, eventually these neighboring countries are going to stop accepting, and they're going to send their citizens right back the other way, right? So millions fleeing to neighboring countries, and these countries are not too welcoming, especially when you come in big groups, right? Superpowers are attempting to establish orders, but only fuels hostility. Okay, now fueling hostility here, right? All right. Let's discuss here superpowers, right? So, who are superpowers? These are, we'll say, the United States influences, Russian influences, the British. I'm sorry, the United Kingdom's influences, the French. All right, Belgium. All right. So, superpowers are attempting to establish order, but only fuels hostility, right? Um, if you have these rebels, right? So when it comes to U.S. and Russian aid, right? What happens here is they take these weak states, and their government is basically asking help from anyone. They're kind of at this desperate moment where they'll accept U.S. aid and they'll accept Russian aid, right? And they'll kind of manipulate the two out of for their resources, right? Um, Moving forward, right? The United States could provide you with a great political organization, good education, good knowledge of how to maintain civil and how you're supposed to run an effective education system, right? Um, but they're a little hesitant when it comes to military aid. They're like, hey, look, listen, we gave you guns before, and all you kind of did was just kill all your citizens with it. All right, so it's a little different there, right? Now, what happens here is that these states, they run to Russia probably, and then, hey, look, listen, we're attempting to maintain our state from collapsing. Civilians are just, they're killing our police officers, our military enforcers, right? We need guns. And what happens there is the aid that United States provides them, we'll say the American grain, that they're the receiving state is supposed to use for food, education, they use it to buy guns and weapons from another state. So superpowers are attempting to establish order. They want to help these states, but honestly, what they're doing is just fueling the hostility.